I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. All right, guys, welcome back to the Team Chip Podcast. We are here with the Miss Glyn Ann. How are you?
I'm great.
Very, very good. Today, we are going to talk about
Mat chats.
Mat chats. And some of you, if you're in the martial arts world and industry, you probably know what a mat chat is.
But I think we should define our terms.
Define our terms. She is ready to apologize. You know, apologetics to defend, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So let's define our terms. What are we talking about here? Mat chats. So, mat chats are what we lovingly think of is kind of at the end of class.
Right.
It's that message we're delivering. And it absolutely doesn't have to be the end of class, but we commonly do them at the end of class. But a mat chat is, typically pre-framed, kind of pre-planned, prepared, and not rote. They're fun, they're engaging, etc. But we're going to talk about that. But it's the message we deliver. It's character, culture. It's the positive principles, life skills that we are trying to pass along, right?
Absolutely. And, I think the reason that it matters is because, if your program it's pretty standard to do 2 to 3 days a week. That's the expectation. And so if your mat chat is 3 to 5 minutes, that's a total of 6 minutes a week. For 4 weeks, that 24 minutes of over a full month of minutes. I don't know. I didn't do the calculation for that. It's a very minuscule amount of time. So what you say has to matter.
It has to hit home. It needs to matter. And obviously, we're going to miss one every now and then. No big deal. But when you think there's 168 hours in the week. And you said in a month you're getting like 20 minutes 20-something minutes of a mat chat. That thing puts
and
things
that's assuming that they actually are attending class consistently.
And that's assuming that you're getting your mat chat done. Get your mat chat done, man.
Right. That's right.
We got to
we
deliver
ran out
that,
of time. We skipped it.
That message. So what is it that keeps mat chats from working? A lot of mat chats, they feel repetitive, forced. They're just forgettable. Instruct like me right now, they ramble, right? Ramble on, over explain, sound repetitive, lecture the kids instead of connecting with the kids, saying things, students hear but never actually feel. A lot of times, my mom used to tell me to get to someone's mind, you go through their heart. Never forget that. If you want to get someone's mind, you go through their heart, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's what that means. If you're just saying things that are just kind of cold, callous, and clinical, and you're not kind of getting some emotions and feelings involved a little bit, some way, somehow, you may be missing the boat. You may just be standing there rote talking to an unreceptive audience. Yeah,
and so the best mat chats they're clear, they're concise, they're intentional, and they really relate to you. You can even be sharing like personal stories or experiences in those, but they have to be clear and concise, and again, intentional. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, I don't want to get sidetracked here, but this is huge. When you share real life stories from your life to them, especially some failure sometimes, that creates so much of a better connection.
Absolutely.
Because now if you're doing your job well and you're leading by example and you're a really, truly good martial artist and inspiring them through your demonstrations and things as you demonstrate things in class, they see you as a hero.
That's right.
And they kind of have you on a pedestal, right? And then whenever that hero sits down and goes, hey, whenever I was 8 and I was in class, man, did I struggle with this. Right?
Yeah, people like underdog stories. I mean, think about it. Just pretty much that's like the movie plot of a huge percentage of movies and entertainment is the struggle.
Right.
The struggle and overcoming that. And so whenever you hear that your hero is actually struggled just like you did, you want to listen to it. And it gives it's humility, it's vulnerability, it's things that really resonate with your students. And really all ages, we gear a lot of things towards, mat chats towards kids, but we do mat chats with adults and teens as well, because it's not like once you click over into now you're a quote adult, that
So-
you don't need it anymore.
I hear this all the time. You're an adult now. You're 18. You're a legal adult now. And in my head, I go, they're still a big kid.
That's right.
They're still lost. They still don't have a prefrontal cortex. They can't think clearly. Like higher functioning reasoning in that brain is not happening yet. It's okay. So they're legally classified as an adult. Well, what does that really mean? Another thing too is, I think one of the things that can fail in Matt chats, speaking of the failures of Matt chats, cold, clinical, just kind of speaking to an unreceptive crowd, is being, when you are, especially with the young guys, being animated, getting their attention, getting down and, on your knees and looking them in the eye and talking to them in a way that they can connect instead of standing over them and talking at them, getting down and talking to them. So, Matt chats matter so much because it's one of the biggest culture building tools in your martial arts school. They help reinforce your school values, help parents to feel, understand a deeper kind of purpose behind the training and what you're doing when you do these Matt chat wells and deliver good content. They build consistency across the instructors because as if you have them planned out and you have multiple instructors doing them as they do them themselves, they're tightening their bond, they're tightening their understanding of the expectations and cultures as well. So there's just so many positive things that Matt has to do in the school.
Yeah, a lot of schools will say we're more than kicking and punching,
right?
But they never tell what is the more than kicking and punching, and it's kind of assuming that people understand that the doing it over and over and over and that repetition. Well, what is that just for example, that repetition is building, we've talked about it before, the grip muscle versus the quit muscle. Right. It's building a discipline to do it over and over and over because we know in anything that you're working at, whether it's spelling or whatever, it's going to take patience and practice and repetition. And so whenever you're able to, absolutely. But whenever you're actually able to verbalize that in a Matt chat and talk about, okay, we worked on this today. This is what we're really focusing on. Whatever that is, you're actually connecting those dots instead of just assuming that they understand. And it's not to say that people aren't smart. That's not what it is. Absolutely. But it's also just to, don't make it difficult to have to figure out why is it that we're doing this? Because we've had parents that from all aspects of life, all demographics, all education levels that have said, you said this and I'd never thought of it that way. And instead of just assuming that they understand, we actually draw the picture for them.
Absolutely. And when you're doing strong Matt chats, it helps parents to see that the school is teaching their child, your martial arts school, your higher educational facility, is teaching their child more than just a physical technique, but teaching them, we say it a lot, life skills and teaching them character values. It improves as a business. If you do that well, man, it helps so much with retention because it develops some trust. Parent loyalty gets better because they might go see, just this week, we hosted an event for our local Chamber of Commerce. Listen to the podcast. We talk about these things. And we had someone come up to us and say, hey, I have my child somewhere else and I see I made a mistake by having them there. Because when you do these things well, that parental loyalty comes out of when one of your parents goes and visits another class, goes to a birthday party at another martial arts school with one of their kids' friends, whatever, and they see the lack of character being taught and the lack of Matt chats and positivity in that realm, they're more loyal to you now. They're like, okay, I know why we're there. It's not just that punch and sidekick. It's the character message being delivered. And when, again, those things are done well, those parents are more likely to do what? Bring their friends and refer people to you. So it's important. Hey, ask yourself this question. If I removed Matt chats completely, just assuming that you're doing them, if you removed them, would it change your school's culture noticeably? Would you see a culture change, right? So I think that's something that might ground you like, man, if we just quit doing Matt chats and we were just in there punching, kicking, and sending them out the door every day, would it matter? I'm smiling because I think it would matter a lot, but
I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, a thing that can be, we've talked about rambling and how that can be a significant negative. Mm-hmm. And a thing that's important to do is to not just talk to them. Don't think of your Matt chats as a lecture where they're, sitting and just being downloaded information. Find ways to ask questions, to engage them, and to ask ask relevant questions. Ask them, okay, so what do you think would be a better way to handle X? Or not just, okay, you guys think of your questions, make your questions deep, make them actually think, because whenever they actually have to think about it, it's like that knowledge becomes theirs instead of whenever it's just downloading and talking, because a lot of times they've come from school where they've been talked to and taught
they've been
all
talked
day
at
long.
all day, right?
Yeah, and now this is their opportunity to actually interact, and it's really cool because you can see, especially if your mat chats are structured and you're delivering them over the same subject over a series of whether it's days or weeks, and you start to see really more thought-provoking and just deeper comments from the kids.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, we should be courteous. We should be nice. We should be nice to our grandma, our puppy dog, and our friends. Y'all have a good day now. It's just like,
oh yeah, it's like, why didn't you just hand me that as I was walking out the door?
Hey guys, today we're going to talk about courtesy. Does anybody even know what that means? And of course, you got a couple of hands, and if you're doing your job, several of them already know. Oh, it means to be nice, sir. Awesome. Who are we nice to? We're nice to everybody. Like it's a little more Socratic, a little more conversational. I don't know if that's really deeply Socratic, but get them to engage with you, so it's not, again, just kind of a mental download. And I think this is important too. I've kind of said it, but connect with him. But the other thing is make sure all of the people doing these mat chats are doing them that way. Sometimes you have one person that's great at mat chats, and the other guys are a little more kind of reading it because they're a little nervous or a little uncomfortable speaking in front of the parents or whatever. Make sure that there's consistency between the instructors as you're doing this. And that's, again, kind of assuming that you have multiple instructors and, a team. So what are some things that make them great?
Well, they're short. They're clear.
Short and
they're
clear. To
emotionally relatable.
I'm going to say it again. Hey, we're going to talk today about perseverance. Little Susie, did you have a tough class today? And maybe little Susie, you saw her fall at one point. She goes, I did. You know what? Whenever I was in class and I was a blue belt, I fell down so many times doing that kick myself. It was unbelievable. And they start to stick their chest out and smile a little bit because they go, oh, you're human too, right? So make it emotionally relatable. How can you kind of get their little emotions involved some and get them to feel it? And it sounded like I was going to take her down a road that she got kind of publicly shamed a little bit, but I didn't.
Right.
Everyone knew she fell. They saw it in class. She knew she fell. But I'm turning it around into hey, falling down is good for you. I fell down and this is what I got from it. I'm so glad I did. And I'm so glad you did too, right?
That's right. It ties whatever concept you're learning to an actual real experience. And then it's easy for them to repeat consistently. So I think a thing, you kind of touched on it, but a thing I wanted to be sure, you want to have consistency amongst your instructors giving the mat chats.
Right.
And so what that kind of assumes is that you practice them.
Yes. Role play.
We consistently meet with our instructors and we actually have conversations and we role play and we practice those actual mat chats with our leadership team and with our instructors so that you're developing that skill, because it is a skill to be able to not just read off of a paper, because that feels absolutely inauthentic. And like I was saying, why don't you just hand that out at the end of class and we can, tuck it in the side door pocket of the car, because we're probably not going to read it. But if you're animated and you're, speaking passionately, then they're going to listen. The parents are going to listen, are more likely to listen.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
Well, and you said make it, I guess kind of easier for the instructors to repeat consistently. We tie a lot of our mat chats around the teamship acronym,
right.
Teachable, Excellent, Accountable, Motivated. And because our team goes through that acronym in our staff meetings and our instructor meetings, we go through it all the time. And not the whole thing. That's a whole different conversation. But each week we ask the team and our staff and other meetings, like, hey, this week, who did you see that was teachable around the school? You know, and how did they personify that? And then the next week it's, hey, how did you see someone personifying excellence in the school? So anyway, we keep it in front of them. The point is because it's always in their mind and we're always going through it. Then when they do the mat chats, it's easier for them to be consistent in the repetition of the mat chat, right?
Right.
Easier for them to dig in. And, you know, we've already said it, but, you know, sometimes start your mat chats with something that the students are kind of struggling with. I mentioned a while ago, hey, little Susie fell down. Like, you know, they're struggling during drills, getting frustrated, you know, helping a partner, staying focused, trying again after failing. You know, those are examples of things you can use for mat chat fodder, for lack of better words, that connects to them, because they just kind of went through it. And then you can attach the principle you want to attach to struggling in that drill. Struggling, perseverance. You know, you're frustrated, patience. You know, you're helping your partner. You are being a good servant with your friends,
right,
and encouraging, or being a good encourager. We use the concept all the time of unwavering support.
Right.
So, you know, try to find things that have happened in the class that help to relate to them as you, and I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry if I'm beating this up, but if you have a set mat chat for the week and it's perseverance, think of something in class that you saw happen that relates to perseverance. You know what I mean? So that it all ties together.
Or even do some sets in your actual class that require perseverance.
Right.
So then you can go, okay, you know how we had to do, 50 doubles or, 50 kicks at this one set, and you got tired but you kept going, and that keeping going, what is that whenever it's keeping going, whenever things get hard, and have them be the answer instead of going, well, let me tell you this.
Right.
Then you ask them in that question format.
I tell you what, this is like one of my pet peeves. I taught a couple of little clinics this past Saturday in our own headquarters school. And in two different groups, I am a big question asker. So I'll be running a class, boom, pause everybody and ask questions to kind of to make them think or to make them problem solve a little bit. And three different times with three different of our instructors, I would pause the class and go ask a question. I can't remember the question. And one of my instructors would answer the question. And I'd be like, stop. Don't answer the question. I'm asking them a question. I want them to think.
I know you know.
I know you know this, right? So anyway, whenever you get to the end of your mat chats too, make it a challenge. So like right now, this kind of heavy on my mind. We're in the summertime. Give them a little homework. You could even have a little handout that goes with your match, a little extra work with some questions, or like, how does this apply at home? Or this week, on perseverance, are you practicing at home and not quitting quickly, or look for, give them a little homework, look for a way to encourage somebody. And the next time they come in, the catch to that is, in my opinion, ask them to bring it back and actually look at it. It's like when you ask your team and your business for a report, but you never look at the reports. They don't like doing that. They don't like giving it to you if you don't look at it and glean from it and thank them for it and get something from it, right? Same thing with if you do homework, make sure it's something that you ask them about, you follow up with. But that can be a fun thing, I think, especially in the summer, because they don't have any other homework. Give them some things around the mat chat, like, hey, we're talking about perseverance. This week, I want you to come in and tell me a couple of times where you had to work hard out in the yard with mom,
right,
and have some perseverance, So, make it memorable, make it something they're going to work on. But we're kind of beating this because we really believe mat chats matter. They
do. And that the thing to consider is, the mat chats absolutely are for the students, but just to reiterate, there's so much for the parents. One, it is educating them, but also educating them on on the program and the life skills that we're really, you can drive by and see a martial arts school that has life skills is something that is a quote benefit. What does that even mean?
Right.
It's how. So that's what the mat chat does. I'm actually showing you that it does. It does. And then the other thing, I can't count the amount of times that parents are like, I love it whenever you guys do. And, they may not call it a mat chat but whenever you talk to the kids at the end of class, I learn so much. And it's not just they learn about what the kids are getting, but they learn too. I mean, I think, and the thing is, that's that teachable mindset that we talk about all the time, coming in and not going, oh, wow, this was geared towards a kid. No, actually, there's multiple children's books that I love because of the deeper lessons that they offer. And I think that's that same mindset of it. Just because it's presented as a kid, sometimes I need things that are presented to a kid.
Oh, all the time when I'm reading in the Bible, I read the Bible all the time. When I'm reading the Bible, I will come across something that's really difficult. And guess what I do? I go to the children's Bible and I read that section.
And then you go read it back.
And then I go read it again and I go, okay, I think that's starting to make sense now.
I understand.
I needed to hear that. Now, the counterintuitive part about that is Paul specifically says, you need to grow up and mature and eat real food, not keep drinking the milk of the infant, right?
That's right.
But every now and then I have to go back to the milk jug. I'm like, what the heck is this?
I don't understand.
Back to the topic of Matt chats, keep in mind, guys, parents are always asking like, why, what is my kid learning here? They're asking the questions, what makes this school different? Is this helping my kid grow, or this instructor's intention? Do they care about my kids? Like, these are just more kind of reasons these Matt chats matter so much.
And every month, whenever they're looking at their bank statement, they're going, is it worth it? I mean, every month, whenever that rolls by and that chart, they have to, and this is a way that, just another way that we're different than every other little activity that they can be doing, because we're not just trying to pour into them physically. We're trying to pour into them mentally and truly spiritually, building that self-control muscle that is,
fruits of the Spirit, baby.
Building the patience, building, doing things with a happy heart. That's not a bad thing. Doing things with a great positive attitude.
Great thing.
Yeah, it's really good.
Absolutely. And, again, kind of on the same line, strong Matt chats, they help the parents to trust you. They see emotional value in what you do. It helps them to gain confidence in your program, connection to your school. It's just important. Remember, we've already said it, but keep the instructors, or remind them, especially your young instructors, they're not only speaking to the child, but as they're speaking to the child, we encourage our Matt chats, bring it over next to the parent group where the parent can hear what you're telling their kids. We don't have anything to hide. Like, we want the parents to know the positive lesson we're trying to pass along here. So bring them over. But also remember, there are some parents in that group that they're picking up too, going, okay, that's a good point. I need to think about that.
Yeah,
right?
and I think also having an expectation of whenever you start talking and that the Matt chat starts, that it gets quiet in the room, and that you're you can say that very kindly and very respectfully, but like, okay, guys, it's time for our Matt chat. If I can have everybody, so that the kids on the mat can be focused on what's going on. You're not saying so that you can hear too, but you are having it so that you can hear too. Okay, we're, so that if I can have everybody, quiet down at the sides, if you've not had control of that. And, that's honestly another podcast, is having control of the sidelines.
It is.
But it is important that you're not having little siblings doing cartwheels and screaming at the side whenever you're trying to have a Matt chat, because then nobody's listening and you're just talking to the air.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great points. I have so many things. I'm glad you said that's another episode, because it really is. So, all right, let's talk real quick about some practical ways to improve Matt chats. We've probably said a lot of this already, but create monthly character themes, right? It's like, create a theme for your team. Your students don't even have to know about the theme, but like your team knows kind of, this is our theme. This is the direction we're going. Give your instructors, especially young instructors, talking points. Give them examples. Give them things to think about. Because sometimes that's why we role play and talk to the instructors, because sometimes they're like, I'm not sure how to connect this to the kids, or I don't know that I've experienced this because I'm young, and so help them with those things. Keep them short. Keep them focused on task. Debrief with your instructors after classes, and not just ask, how did the martial arts go, but ask, hey, how did y'all's Matt chats go today? How did they feel? Did things go smooth? I know sometimes I'm guilty of just going, how was class? Did the kids work hard? Did they accomplish? Did they learn how to earn today?
Right.
And make sure you debrief on those, those Matt chats.
And I think reiterating the fact that the Matt chats are not the meat of the class,
right?
But the Matt chats,
they're the icing.
And they are absolutely important. But they don't need to be overlooked, because a cake without icing is kind of.
It's okay. Sometimes I do like cake without icing.
That's a brownie.
I love brownies, woman. What
Well,
you talking
ditto,
about?
but with ice cream
But the Matt Chat for me is like a warm, fresh piece of chocolate cake with a big lump of vanilla ice cream on the side. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You got to stop talking about that because I'm getting really hungry right now. Yeah, we've already talked about it, but role play with your team too.
Yeah, and
practice delivery and clarity. A fun little drill, side note, is to do stump speeches with your instructor team leadership. We start in our leadership team sometimes just as kind of a surprise activity. Boom, everybody's going to do a stump speech, and you have a box. It's a little small box with a paper clip, a pen, a pocket knife, a wadded up piece of paper. You hand it to them and you say, grab one thing and start talking. And they have to talk about that thing. And sometimes you can even narrow it down and say, sell me that thing. Or why is that thing important? And then they have to think like on the spot and talk. And little drills like that can help them to be better public speakers, better at their Matt Chats, different things like that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Good. Make sure that your instructors know that to try to sound natural, use a real example, avoid over talking, speak with conviction. Anything spoken with conviction and confidence is much easier to believe than someone that's timidly talking, and focus on, connecting with the students and delivering value over perfection in the Matt Chat itself. And I know we've do good Matt Chats, but make sure they're connecting well. So,
and just to restate, they may seem like a small thing, but small moments are really the thing that consistently shape your school culture over a time.
Absolutely. We say it all the time, but greatness is really in the details. Good is average, but greatness falls in the details. It's getting it from a 70 to 75 to a 95. And that really is, now we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's and getting the punctuation in place, where the details, the small things that really do matter. So anyway, remember, great martial arts schools, not only built through, drills and technique and sparring skills, but it's built through leadership. It's built through consistency. Consistency is key. Imagine that. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. Emotional connection, culture, meaningful moments that students remember. That's how we build a strong martial arts school. Mm-hmm. And Matt Chats may seem small, but they're actually kind of a huge part of all of this. So any last minute kind of nuggets for us on here?
So just, takeaways, make your mat, keep them short,
right.
Short and sweet. They connect the lesson to real class experiences, real things that are going on. We always, we have this little phrase, a little birdie told me, and it's whenever a parent comes up, not necessarily with a concern, but like, they're struggling with X, and it can be something at home. It can be, but just make it something that's real to the lives of the kids that are actually on your mat.
Right. Can I say something right here real quick? Mm-hmm. So I want to kind of squeeze this in, but Matt Chats, I tell our team all the time, you don't have to do the exact Matt Chat that we're asking you to do today. Sometimes when you're in the lobby, I've done this probably 1,000 times, you'll hear a parent maybe speaking to another parent about something that their kid did today at school that was negative, or they got in trouble, or it's something like. You could almost bet your bottom dollar that Chip was having a Matt Chat that day in general about that topic with that group of kids. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe, a parent comes in and says, my kid got in trouble for talking too much in class, right? I'll overhear that, and I'll either tie it to the correct topic, or I'll make that my new topic for the day.
Right.
And we'll have and the parent will be walking out and not realize you heard them talking to another parent and look at you and be like, man, my kid needed to hear that so bad today. And you're like, well, that's great. I'm so glad that worked out well for you. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a little sneaky, but that's a way that we've done Matt Chats in the past.
And, I really think that that's just that emotional intelligence about you're paying attention to what your parents need. And the thing about that is super powerful is it's very relevant and it's timely. And it's also like you can have a student that has been there for 2 weeks, and it's not really the time to go, okay, well, we are going to have a one-on-one. You can talk to the general group, and you're also looking, are they listening?
And that little guy's sitting there going, They're talking to me.
Yeah, but it's a way that's kind of like a first step whenever you're needing to do some sort of corrective something. Okay, we're going to talk as a general group. We're going to make this kind of a blanket statement, a blanket discussion. And then sometimes, really a lot of times, that's really all it takes. And just to close it out, just the final thought is, just keeping your staff consistently doing them.
Right.
A mat chat done is better than none.
Yeah. Well, that just makes me think of Haunchy's words, a little bit of something's better than a lot of nothing.
That's
right?
Right.
At least get some in there. All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Get out there and get those mat chats on. Get them relevant. Keep them short, concise, and all of those things. And we hopefully will see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, subscribe, share, and or leave a review because we need you. We appreciate you so much.